What's up guys, Excalibur here and welcome back to Star Ocean Anamnesis. So today we got the second part of the wedding event, the bridal event, so let's take a look at it, shall we? First up, we have the Temple of Elements vulnerable to Earth, so again, another maze, and this time they're vulnerable to Earth, probably because they have the Earth weapons up in the gacha currently, so you're gonna have to pull for those if you want to do some actual damage, or you could just use these characters, but you know, you could also just use your regular party and that should be good enough. And don't forget to exchange your maze coins, because I always forget to do that. But that's it for the Temple of Elements vulnerable to Earth. Then we also have the Memory of a Bouquet Misery 2. And this is actually only Misery 2. They didn't introduce a Misery 3 for this boss, which is kind of interesting. So Misery 2 just gives you more blossoms as well as the coins that you can exchange in the lottery thingy. And yeah, if you complete it the first time, you get some gems, 100 gems. That's cool. And they also added some new items to the shop as well, like a 5-star character ticket, 5-star weapon ticket, and a large limit breaker. So I do recommend you pick those up because those are kind of valuable. And oh my god, the Promised Bouquet is still there at 20,000 coins. I still haven't bought it. Hopefully the Misery 2 farming makes it a lot easier to collect those blossoms, because god damn, that one is pretty ridiculous. And I think this one is actually a fairly easy Misery 2 fight. There's not much different to it, so you should be able to auto this with a decent party, I think. And then we have the second part of the wedding event, the Meadow of Offerings. So this is another type of, like another similar event. You get some more blossoms as well as the coins, which you can exchange in 2 separate exchanges. And just like with the first part, you can get small limit breakers times 20 from the Eve's house and the Rena's house quests, and some gems there as well. So here we have the limited event weapons. The Gold Blossom Bunny Rod is the first one, which increases Brilliantly Divine Flower damage by 15%, gives you a lower chance of getting targeted by the enemy, and it also increases crit hit chance by 5%. And this thing overall is not great. Again, just like with all of the other event weapons, I highly recommend you transmute this because we have better stuff in the actual coin shops. And then the knuckles again are also not that great. Normal attack AP recovery is something that most buffers carry nowadays. Attack plus 5% is decent, but it's only 5%, so again, transmute those for maybe the Gaia Godfists that you can find in the shop. And then we also have the shop where you can find the Barrier Blaster. Make sure to pick that up. Character ticket, which that's basically a medium limit breaker, so also recommend you pick that up. And then we have the Promised Bouquet, which you need to use to unlock the Eve's house quests or the Rena's house quests for those small limit breakers, and it costs 2,000, which is a lot less than the other one. I like that, yeah. And then for the box draw, it's the exact same as with the first part of the Bride event. The exact same items, except the only difference is that it now has the yellow Blossom Hammer cap increase. So that's just a nice little extra thing you can do while you're farming for the actual currency. And about the Promised Bouquet, there's only one in the shop, but the other bouquet can be found in the event achievement. So you need to beat that quest 40 times to unlock that last Promised Bouquet, which that's a lot, but you know, at least you don't have to farm like 20,000 blossoms. Man, I'm so salty about that. And then the boss of this event is the Monarch Chimera, a beast-type enemy who's weak to Earth, and that works out for us because we have a lot of Earth weapons now, and our new character over here, Bride Eve, is an Earth Invoker, our first Earth Invoker, I think, at least main element, Earth. And then we also have the new item that's been added to the shop, the status enhancement sets, and as well as the Meadow of Offerings limited set that contains an ace ticket, 5-star weapon ticket, and probably some prisms. So 5,000 gems for that. Again, make the decision yourself, because the ticket could come in handy, but at the same time, it also has a kind of a lower chance of drawing the character that's currently on the banner. And this is something else that's interesting, and this was completely unexpected. They buffed the summer characters, and now they're actually strong enough to compete with our current characters. So the summer characters were released like, well, obviously back in summer of last year. That was a while ago, and they were really weak back then. But now they are back up to par, and hopefully they'll buff the the Halloween characters pretty soon, because those are starting to fall off a little bit as well. But let's take a look at the first one, shall we? So Summer Muria's rush gauge has been reduced by 30% now, her attack buff has been increased to 60%, and the AP cost reduction is now 20%. Her single target damage for the entire party has gone up by 30%, and her rush now has a 4,500% multiplier. Absolutely amazing. So as long as Summer Muria can hold aggro, which should be fairly simple if you're running the Quarry's Charm, but as long as she can hold aggro, her attack goes way up, and it allows her to do a lot of damage, especially with that rush. That's now one of the strongest rushes that we have, and her single target damage buff is now also on par with those of other limited defenders. And on top of that, she also has that stun chance, which is a very rare buff, so that makes her a very interesting defender. And then Summer Miki now has a 45% damage buff for the entire party. Her crit hit chance has gone up to 30% for the entire party. She now has a 100% AP recovery on normals for the entire party, and she can air dodge, and her rush has a 4,000 multiplier. So the buff to her damage buff means that she's now basically on the same level as 9S and Awakened Maria. Of course, they still have stronger damage buffs, but it's almost the same. The critical hit chance buff is not that important because it doesn't increase your damage output by that much, but it certainly helps. Normal attack AP recovery, that's also very nice now, so you can put her in a lot more parties, especially because it's not locked to like close range weapons or long range weapons, so it applies to everybody. And the fact that she can air dodge means that she's now a little safer to play. And she also has the party-wide guts, which is I think she's the only one that gives a party-wide guts right now, so that is very nice. Again, Summer Miki, also a really good character. And then Summer Raimi, who has a 55% attack buff for the entire party for everybody that's not standing in front of the enemy, a 45% attack buff, and a rush combo damage buff by 15% for everybody that's standing in front of the enemy. Her normal attack AP recovery has gone up to 100% now. She can air dodge, and her AP cost reduction is now 50% when her skill chain is at 3 or more, and she also has a 4,000% rush multiplier. So just like when she was first released, she is one of the strongest attack buffers yet again. The fact that she can air dodge means that she increases her survivability by a bit. The 45% attack buff is also really high, with the only higher ones being, I think, Cat Rena, 2B, and Awakened Fidel. But she does give a 15% rush buff, which is still very rare, so that makes her a very strong buffer, although you do need to be standing in front of the enemy, which is again a little difficult to do, but it should work. And Summer Sophia didn't get many buffs because she was still very good, but her int has been increased to 35% now. Her AP cost reduction is 40%, and int damage is also 40% when the skill chain is at 3 or more, and her symbol invoking time has gone down by 30% now. And she actually still has the same role that she used to have when she first came out. She's just a lot better at it now because her damage has gone way up, so she's still a normal healer that can supply the party with AP, and she still does a lot of damage. So these summer characters are actually not available right now. They said they will be conducting a special campaign draw focused on these characters in the near future, so I assume that's going to be like 2 weeks from now. That's my guess. But all 4 of these, if you have them, they're all incredibly good. I would say Summer Muria got the biggest buff out of all of them because she can actually compete with the likes of A2, Winter Eve, and Rain now. That's freaking crazy. Summer Sophia is still incredibly good. Summer Miki has that guts, which is also really rare. Like all of these summer characters have something that makes them incredibly unique. Like Summer Muria has the stun chance, Summer Miki has the guts, like I said. Summer Raimi, well, she has the rush combo damage, and Summer Sophia is just ridiculously strong. And what would an update be without the gacha? And speaking of crappy weapons, we have the Predator Saber, a blade and sheath which increases damage dealt to beasts by 40%, gives you 5% lifesteal, and increases your normal attack AP recovery by 50% at 100 hits or more. The only good thing about this is its lifesteal, seeing as how most of our defenders right now are blade and sheath users. They could make very good use of that. I guess the beast is fine, but overall this thing is not recommended. And then we have the Gold Horn Bow, which also increases damage dealt to beasts by 40%, gives you anti-flinch, and it increases damage dealt by 20% at 100 hits or more. So just like with the Blade and Sheath, the damage dealt to beast is very situational, and the attack damage dealt, to unlock that, it needs to be max limit break, and pulling this thing 6 times just for that last factor, that is absolutely not worth it. But then we have the Celebration Charm, which increases earth damage dealt by 40%, gives you 10% critical hit chance, and increases in damage dealt by 15% when the hit count is at 100 hits or more. So this is the first earth staff that we have, and it's very good at what it does, which is killing stuff. The only issue is that the only staff users that we currently have that even use earth are Millie and Bride Eve. I think Sophia also uses earth, but it's not her main element. So those two are the only ones that even use earth. Millie is more of a healer. She can't really do damage, so she would prefer to use something else. This does work for Bride Eve, so if you're planning on pulling for her, you definitely have to pick this thing up. And then lastly, the Radiant Fist, which imbues your attacks with earth, gives you normal attack AP recovery plus 30%, and increases attack damage dealt by 15% at 100 hits or more. So this is the third set of earth knuckles that we got, the first one being the Gaia God Fists. Of course, this thing is a little better than the Gaia God Fist, but the God Fists are free, so you can easily get those to max limit break. And the second set of knuckles we got, those are the lovely Kitty Paws, which have a lifesteal, so those are better than this thing. I wouldn't recommend pulling for this thing for that exact reason. You can easily get the Gaia God Fists and just roll with those. Man, I feel so sorry for people who are pulling for Bride Eve, because this staff is in a really bad gacha. There are 4 weapons in here, so the chance of you getting that staff, that's very low. Good luck if you're actually pulling for this. And speaking of Bride Eve, her first talent increases her int stat by 45%, her second talent reduces her AP cost by 20%, or 30, 40, or 50 every 50 hits, so 30% would be when the hit counter is at 50, 40% at 100 hits. Her third talent increases the normal attack AP recovery for the entire party by 80%, and her last talent gives her anti-flinch casting and reduces her cast times by 30%. Now this is where it gets interesting for Bride Eve, because her rush has a 4500% multiplier. It also reduces her AP cost by 60% and increases her in damage dealt by 40% for 20 seconds, and then she has earth elements as well as light elements on her attacks. And her int stat is almost at a huge 4000, and for that reason her rush is incredibly powerful, and all of her other attacks can be incredibly powerful too. She uses a staff, which means that her cast times are a little slow, a lot slower than tome users as well as orb users, but she does cover the earth element as our first earth invoker. Like I said, she does damage. She doesn't have much party utility, but she doesn't really need that. The normal attack AP recovery is nice. Overall, if you like playing invokers, I definitely suggest giving Bride Eve a shot. And then Bride Rena increases attack for the entire party by 30% and increases their normal attack AP recovery by 100%. She also increases single target damage as an attacker by 5% or 20% when the hit count is at 150 or more for herself and long range weapon allies. She also has a 5% HP regen when the hit count is at 0, and a 10% regen when the hit count is at 100 for the entire party. And she also has anti-flinch as well as air dodging, and reduces her AP cost by 20% and increases her attack by 20% when the hit count is at 50 hits or more. And just like Bride Rena, she also has a 4500% multiplier on her rush, and it also gives the entire party an anti-flinch, and then all of her attacks have decent multipliers to them. They're all close range attacks too, but unfortunately they're a little slow. So Bride Rena, she's kind of a mixed bag. She brings single target damage. I'm pretty sure she's the only attacker that can do that. She also has that HP regen, which is very interesting, but her attack buff is kind of lacking with what we currently have. Fidel has like a 50%, Summer Raimi got buff, 2B is still the queen, and even her Valentine's version has a stronger attack buff. And the single target damage buff usually gets overridden by defenders. The HP regen is very nice though. She's also got the stats of an attack buffer instead of an offensive character, so even though she has that really strong rush, that's pretty much the only like strong offensive attack that she has. All of her other attacks are going to do decent damage, like nothing special. You know, it kind of sucks that she has a Valentine's version that kind of does the same thing, but better. The only thing that this Rena does better than Cat Rena is she's got the regen, but that's about it. So they're both very good. Unfortunately, there are a lot of alternatives to Bride Rena, like 2B, Cat Rena, so on and so forth. Bride Eve is special because she is the only Earth Invoker that we have right now. So that's basically how they fit in gameplay-wise. None of the Bride characters are anything too special aside from Eve, but we all know why we're pulling for them. And that pretty much does it for the update. Now, I still have a lot of farming to do on that first wedding event, so I'll catch you guys later. Peace!